What a beautiful morning. It's such a beautiful morning, you all, to be alive. And no matter what you're facing this morning, when you wake up and start, the dawning of a new day, always know that if God allowed you to keep breathing all night long, wake up the following morning, that's a blessing. That is truly a blessing. That's something to be thankful for, because one thing that I am absolutely sure of, that if it had not been for God on my side, oh my Lord, where would I be? So beautiful. Yes, I am very thankful for life. I know some people just really, they're alive, but they're only existing. But I thank God for life. And there are some people that as they grow older, it's like they begin to resent the fact that they're older. But what older means is that God has brought you down through the years, through the ups and the downs, the thick and the thin. And the fact that you're still here, you are still alive. Oh my goodness, that is so much to be thankful for. And I encourage you all to learn to praise God in every circumstance. Learn to praise Him, to give Him thanks. Just try to minimize your complaining about this and complaining about that, and just give God His due praise, because God is worthy to be praised. I'm happy and proud to be 66. Some people say, you get old and worn down, don't nobody want you no more. You're just an old woman, old gray-haired woman. But you know what? I am so proud of this signature gray hair. I'm so proud of, life, health, and strength. And I truly give God the praise. Because what is the alternative, you all? What is the alternative? What is the opposite of living? The opposite of living is dying. And I ain't ready to die. I got some more stuff that I believe in my heart that God has for me to do. I believe it in my heart. So dying is, unless God says so, and unless God has something else in store, dying is just not an option. I want to live. I want to not only live, and I don't want to just exist, but I want to live, y'all. I truly do. I want to live. And I not only want to live, but I want to be happy and at peace as I am living. Whatever it is that I don't have, whoever it is that I don't have, I am content, like Paul said, in the state in which I am. And, and I can truly say, and I can mean it from my heart, that I want for nothing. Even though I'm not rich, I don't have a lot of money. I got bills that needs to be paid off. I got things that needs to be done. I have stuff that, keeps me, kind of worried sometimes about. Okay, but I ain't gonna worry too long, because one thing about it, I got a God that solves all of those issues, and all I gotta do is trust Him. All I gotta do is trust God. I'm not gonna sit around worrying about this and worrying about that. I am going to put my faith in God and know that He has my life in control. And I want to encourage you all on this day. Wake up this morning with thanksgiving in your heart. Wake up this morning knowing that if it had not been for God on your side throughout your life, no matter how old you are, you could be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, younger than 40, teens, whatever. If God has allowed you to continue to have breath in your body, that means that there is something that He has in store, that He wants to use you in a mighty way. You ain't living just to be living. I realized a long time ago that I'm not living just to be living. I'm living on purpose. I'm living with intention. I'm living according to a plan of God. I'm living because He has me on a mission. There are times when my life could have been snuffed out, whether it's by way of, on the highways or, through health, whatever it is. That my life, there are a couple times when I thought that, okay, this is going to be it. But the Lord said, no, I got more work for you to do. So as I wake up, even with wondering sometimes, Lord, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to get this done? And somehow, some way, God always work it out for me, y'all. He always work it out. And right now, I'm so thankful that after probably 40-something years of working, spending all most of my life working hard. I was a hard worker. And I not only was I a hard worker, but I was a very dedicated employee. I went to work practically every day. That was very seldom that I took off for sickness or just took off. I took my vacation times, but just taking off, just be taking off, and I was at work every day. The majority of the times, it was very rare that I was late getting to work. I was up and I got to my job. I was at my desk and I did my work from the time I got there until the time I left. I work inside the box, outside the box, around the box, over the box, because that's just how I was. And anything that I did, and my name was to it, I wanted it to be done well. Beautiful morning. As I was saying, this is such a beautiful day to be alive. And for me, every day that I wake up, as I said, I am so thankful. But here's the thing that will impede upon our ability a lot of times to wake up in peace. It's when we create our own turmoil in our lives by not handling our business properly, by not doing the things that we're supposed to do in order to help us to be able to live in peace. Because one thing about God will supply the peace that we need, but He also requires us to do our part. And that part is to be responsible. The things that are handed to us in life, whether we are, granted a loan to buy a house, to buy a car, to credit cards, whatever it may be, there's a responsibility that we have, and that is to be good stewards over our money, to pay our bills, to pay them on time, to pay what we owe, and to be have integrity about, about the responsible things in life. The worst thing in the world, is to be all behind on your bills and scared every time the doorbell rings, scared every time the phone rings. You're avoiding, phone calls. You look at your caller ID. If you don't recognize the number, you're not answering because you're afraid that if you answer it, it's a bill collector trying to get money from you, and you don't want to talk to them. You just want to run and hide. And then even sometimes when we get money, we still won't pay the bills. We still won't catch them up. And we live this life of running and hiding and ducking and dodging. And we don't have to. We don't have to live that way. And once upon a time, I won't lie. I'll be transparent. I have been there in my life when I didn't have all of the money to pay all of the bills. And then I start trying to avoid, the bill collectors because I didn't have it. And there are times when I didn't have it. It was my fault that I didn't have it. God gave it to me. I wasn't a good steward over it. And then I wind up having to run because now, I'm hiding. But that is not how God wants us to live. And that is what, when we wake up in the morning, that we can sabotage our own peace. We can sabotage our happiness. We can sabotage our joy because we have a choice to either, be responsible with the things that God has given us, or we can choose to live a life of irresponsibility. And with that being said, I just want to talk to me and you and us about the importance of just, handling your money, budgeting your money, paying your bills, and paying your tithes if you're in the church, and, just doing things the way that God has planned and intended. And so when we do those things, that is what allows us to be able to live in perfect peace, because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We don't have to wake up and I don't want to hear nobody say things like, well, you know what? God's got my back. God is going to, yeah, he's got your back, but he also wants you to have your own back. Have your own back. And when I say that, he wants you to be concerned about your life enough to where you do the things that you're supposed to do in order to be able to live a life of peace. And so budgeting our money and, taking care of situations and things and saving our money and not just blowing through it and just spending needlessly, buying stuff we don't need. And I'm talking about whether it's buying brand new stuff, thrifting stuff. God had to teach me that, hey, even buying stuff for $1, if I don't have that dollar to spend, then you need to be trying to do things that you're supposed to be doing before you can enjoy doing this over here. I can't go out thrifting if my bills are all jacked up. I go out and spend $5 on thrifting, but then I could have spent $5 on my light bill. So we have to put our priorities in the right place. We have to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do in order to be able to live that life of peace. And I encourage you that if you're in a situation where you're all jacked up with bills and, things, just all over your head, you're running and you're ducking and you're dodging. And sometimes, we have to just sit down and just put this stuff in perspective, put it down on paper, write down what we owe, write down what we need to do, write down, make some priorities, make some plans, put some things in place. How can I pay this off? How can I pay that off? How can I concentrate on this? What is more important? What is the highest priority of what I need to get paid off or get paid down? And, how can I pay on this and just pay on that while I work on this and work on that in order to eventually get to the point to where even if you're not completely debt free, you can be so close to being debt free until peace just surrounds you. And that is what I am in. That's where my life is right now. Because I spent a lot of my life raising children by myself, having hard times with money, hardships, and going through this and going through that. And I don't have that excuse anymore about, being a single mother and not making enough money. God has blessed me to raise 3 children. They're on their own. They're doing well. So what I want to do now with my life, I don't want to live the rest of my life being, in debt and being behind and, all of this kinds of stuff. Yes, I'm living on a fixed income. I make extra income. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to make it stretch. But if we sit down and decide what's important, and then sometimes, y'all, let me say this. Sometimes we have to make up in our minds what we have to give up in order to be able to do what we need to do. What do I need to give up? Am I okay with living, down to just, the very, very minimum, the very simplistic life I can live to save my money, to have an extra money to be able to pay this off and to pay that off, rather than going out and eating, or rather than, eating out, rather than going to the store and shopping and buying this and buying that we don't need. How can I take that extra money? If I go to the grocery store, buy my food, eat at home, and just do whatever I can do to kind of curve stuff. Do I have to have, most expensive cable? Do I have the most expensive cell phone? Do I need to really have the most expensive this or that? How can I simplify my life so I can put more money in my pocket and I can pay off some of these bills, these credit card debt, and go ahead and just do what I need to do, even if it means that I got to live like a pauper for 6 months, even if I got to live like I'm poor for 6 months, until I get my act together, till I pay these bills down, so that I don't have to be ducking and dodging and running and hiding and carrying on. So that brings me to a personal thing that I have right now. I am so close with my car to paying my car off. I owe just a little bit over $2,000 on my car, and then it will be mine outright. I fought hard to hold on to this car like I do with my house and everything else. But the fact that I have that thing down to only owing a little over $2,000, y'all know what I'm getting ready to do? That's getting ready to be a priority. I want to pay that thing off. I want to have that paid off with it. I want to set a goal to say within 30 days, 60 days, however, 3 months, I want to have that car paid off so I can get my papers on that car and it'll be outright mine. That is a monthly payment. I don't have to worry about no more. That's out of I don't have the budget for that no more. That is done. The car is in great shape. Thank God for it. It still has some good life in it. I want to get it paid off while it's still, running well and I don't have any mechanical issues with it. And it would just be, oh my God, it would just be exciting, to be able to set that goal, plan out how I'm going to do it, budget the way that I'm going to do it. What can I give up in order to do it? What it is that I don't need so I can pay this car off and get it done so that I can get my title to it in my hand, own my car. I've owned other cars before, but this is something right now, I'm talking presently in my life. I want to get this vehicle paid off. So that is my goal. That is what I'm getting ready to do. What is it that you need to do? And there's a couple of other bills that I need to just wipe it out. I don't even owe that much on it, but just wipe it out, Brenda. Just do what you need to do. Take the money, take it, just drink water, stay home and eat bologna, because you could eat steak later, but right now there's an old saying, in order to get to where we need to be, sometimes, right now you need to eat bologna and then when you get to the point to where you can eat steak later on. But sometimes we try to eat the steak first and then we have to eat bologna for the rest of our lives. So why not just go ahead now and eat bologna for now and then eat steak for the rest of your life? Take time out and decide, how do I want to live my life? Do I want it to be in an uproar all the time? Do I want to be running and hiding and scheming and dodging and all that craziness? Or do I just want to knock this stuff out, pay it off, sacrifice and take the money, and just do what you got to do? That's my goal. Set your goal. Budget. And even when you pay it off, still live by a budget. Still live within your means. Because sometimes people will pay off their debt and then they'll turn around and get right back into debt again. And sometimes you wind up being worse because we get so silly when we feel like, oh, my credit score is good and I got it where I want it to be. Now I'm up in the 600s and 700s and, I don't have no kind of, now I can go out there and I can buy me a little something. I can start. And then you go right out there and restart that debt all over again. God did not design, we were not designed to live in debt the way that debt is just a trick of the enemy. Debt is a trick of the enemy. Now, there's some debt that we can't help. You buy a house, yeah, you're going to be in debt. You buy a car, unless you have cash for it, you're going to be in debt. But if you buy it, budget yourself so you can pay for it, and eventually you'll be out of debt. I did not live by that concept. I didn't live by that for many, many years. And it cost me. I'm 66. And I made a lot of mistakes, you all. A lot of financial mistakes. But as long as God gives me breath, that's why I said when I was coming in earlier, and I was saying that as long as I wake up and have breath in my body, God is giving me another chance to get it right. I don't care if you are 75, 85, whatever. As long as you get up and as long as you're breathing, you have an opportunity. There's a song that says, He's a God of a second chance. And God is a God of not only a second chance, but He's a God of a third, fourth, because He keeps having mercy on us. His mercy endures forever. God is always trying to improve us, and He always wants to improve us. He wants us to be better. That's why He keeps giving us, the road map to better. Follow God's road map to better. And when you follow that road map, I want to encourage you and myself to be better, live better, do better. Because God wants to see us prosper in health and wealth. God wants to see us be on our best game, y'all. He wants us to see us living. There is nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing wrong with, but earn it. Earn wealth. Earn it by doing the hard work. And some of us need to do some hard work in order to get where we need to be and where we want to be. Thank God that I see the light, y'all. It took me some years, but I see the light. Brenda made some mistakes. Lord, if I could write a book about the mistakes that I made, it probably would have to wind up being one of those books, part 1, part 2, 3, 4. But thank God that as I grew older, as I grew up in wisdom, I don't make those same mistakes that I've made. But sometimes there are mistakes that will follow you all. They'll follow us. They'll follow us for a long time in our lives. But even with that, we have time. We have always the opportunity to make things better. Even those things that have been following us on our credit report, that we're still trying to pay off from 10 years ago. You never, ever get beyond the ability to improve your life. We just have to wake up with the determination that, Lord, I want to be better. I want to do better. I want peace in my life, and I can't have peace owing all these people, in all this debt. Y'all better leave that debt alone. You better leave them credit cards alone. That's a trap. All that interest rates and all that stuff. I'm not perfect, and thank God. Now, that's one thing I do thank God for, is I don't have any credit card debt. And it's probably because, with the way I was going at one point, I couldn't even get a good credit card if I wanted one. So, hey, thank God for that. Sometimes God saves us from ourselves. He saves us from ourselves. So if you are like bombarded right now with all kind of credit card debt and you are drowning, I'm encouraging you to don't give up and don't just get paralyzed over the situation. Get up and decide to do something about it. I want you to pray about it, fast about it, pay your tithes, get in a church, get under the word, give God, His due. Some people believe in tithing and some people don't believe in tithing. But the concept of tithing works, because when you give, God gives back. It's a concept of reciprocity. You give, you get back. You bless the house of God, and God bless your pocketbook. And that's, it's not about, making the church rich. It's a personal principle of giving and receiving. You give to help others. You receive to help yourself. But when your hands are tight and you don't want to give and you don't want to help nobody, then that it hinders God from being able to bless you. And even if you're not in a church where you go tithe, give to some type of organization, a cancer project. They got, St. Jude with the children with cancer and all of these different organizations that you can give your money to help. And so when you start giving more, and you say, well, Miss Brenda, how am I going to be giving if I don't have it? You can give whatever small amount that you can give, because you're beginning to now operate in a concept of sowing and reaping, reciprocity. You're sowing into giving and receiving. It's just a concept. It's something that you're investing in. It's a financial investment that with God that you're giving into the kingdom, and you're being blessed into your life. Giving and receiving. That's what it's all about. So that is pretty much all what I wanted to talk to you today about. Budget, responsibility, being a good steward, responsibility, living with integrity. Stop running and hiding from your responsibilities, running and hiding and ducking and dodging. If your debt collectors are calling you, all they really want to do is to get some kind of what's going on. What can we do to help you? How can we set up a payment plan? And sometimes you'd be surprised how these companies and these debt collectors are willing to work with you if you would just pick up the phone and talk to them. But a lot of times we wait too late. Your car is repossessed. Your house is foreclosed on. You've been sued for judgments on credit card debt and owing this. And these people would take you to court. They would take your stuff. So before you get to the point of keep ignoring it and hoping that it will go away, go ahead and talk to them folk. Set up something with them. If you got to beg a little bit, do what you got to do. These folks are willing to work with you because most of the time they don't want that car back and they don't want that house back. They don't want that depreciated stuff. They want to be able to get their money. And if they got to set up a plan with you, put some of that those payments on the back of your loan, or in order to help you to get caught up, go ahead and work with them. You all work with them. Stop avoiding the inevitable, because all you're going to do when you avoid is you're going to make matters worse. Then next thing you know, you're walking around without a car. You got to be put out. You got to find somewhere to live and all this kinds of stuff. When all you got to do is just talk to the folk, live with integrity, live righteously, live godly. He does not want us running from our responsibility. And I know that this has been maybe, long or whatever, but sometimes it's just some things just have to be said, because like I said, it's not just for you, but it's also for me. It took me a long time to get to the point of responsibility. I used the excuse for years about being a single mother. Yeah, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I did have 3 children. But at the same time, that did not excuse me from not taking care of things the way that I should and just keeping things up. So anyway, you all, I am going to head back to my house. This is How to Budget Your Life Tuesday. How to budget your life Tuesday. How to get out of the debt Tuesday so we can live and we can be free to do things with joy, peace, and happiness. All right, you all. Thank you so much.